I followed it myself.
MLBBro.com is covering the World Series.
Do you want to redo that intro?
You guys are live right
now. My fault. Sorry, guys. Welcome to the MLB Bro. I forgot we were going live on Facebook and YouTube. Welcome to the MLB Bro Show podcast preview. Malik Wright here with Dante Miles. We're going to talk about the World Series and give you guys a rundown on what happened in the NLCS and the ALCS. Dante, first off, started off. How you doing?
I'm good, bro. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm good, man. Just excited for what we get to see coming up. Braves, Astros. I feel like it's a culture type World Series. You get the city of Atlanta versus the city of Houston. Dusty, Quavo. I saw 2 Chainz, all of them were at the game the other day. So I think it's going to be, it's something different. We weren't expecting to see it.
Oh, yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a dope World Series. I know the city of Atlanta was really nervous, with them blowing the 3-1 lead last year and then going up 3-1 this year. And a lot of people thought it was, going to be deja vu, but they actually got it done. So I'm really excited for the series. And like you said, bro, the culture of both cities is definitely going to make for an exciting World Series. And that's something that I think is really good for baseball.
Yeah, and the city of Atlanta definitely got reason to worry. It's something about that city with the leads that they have not being able to hold up. But at the same time, that's one of my favorite parts. They get to face off against Dusty Baker, who he's been known to not be able to get it done in the big moment. Everybody's rooting for him this year to get it done. So we'll see what happens. But let's get it started off and let you know how we got there. Dodgers versus Braves first series, and Eddie Rosario just took over. Let's show him this 3-run home run he had in Game 4 that really gave them some momentum.
With his 31st pitch, pitching in his second inning. In the air, right field, hit well.
Yeah, 6-2.
This one is up and out.
Just patting on the lead. I mean, he went crazy the entire series. New piece that they acquired at the deadline, one of many. Just how did this Braves team go from being one of the worst in the NL East to the World Series?
Yeah, no, bro, you really hit the nail on the head with that one. Eddie was a really great deadline move, great pickup, and him along with Jock Peterson, they both have really helped power this team along during the playoffs, and they really they weathered the storm. We talked about it last show, how that NL East really kind of fell apart, and they really just were able to maintain and then take over. And then with the moves that they made, that's what you need. A lot of teams, every team that makes moves at the deadline, this is why you make those moves. You look for that piece that's going to push your squad. And for Eddie to go crazy the way he did in the NLCS, I got the his stats up. He won NLCS MVP, but let's see, where is he at? He had 560, with a 607 on base percentage. His slugging was 1.04. He was really just everything the Braves need and everything you need, when you're looking to go to that next level and take it to the World Series. And so that was a great pickup, and he really paid dividends for them going down the stretch.
Yeah, another guy who they got at the deadline, Jorge Solaire, he ain't even get to play the last series. He had COVID. He passed. He's coming back now. So it's a little debate on whether they put him in the leadoff spot, take Rosario off. I kind of think they should keep it how it is, but they're playing they're playing Houston in the AL, who gets a DH. I'm going to bring in David Grubb from Crunch Time out there in Louisiana. My man Dave, what's up, man?
What's happening? Good to be with y'all, fellas. What's happening? How y'all doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good, man. We were just got started here a few minutes ago. Just talking about what happened. We talked about it earlier during the Braves Dodgers series. Just tell me what you saw from your eyes.
What was remarkable to me was just how inconsistent the Dodgers bats were. You could expect that the Braves pitching was going to be good, but for the Dodgers to not be able to produce consistent hitting and have to rely so much on the home run throughout the series to get offense going. That's not why they built that team that way. They were built to be able to score runs in a bunch of different ways, and you didn't see any of that against the Braves. And I think the Braves just did a fantastic job of being timely too. Like, when the Braves had times to get runners in early in the series, they did. Even though they didn't get a bunch of chances, the Dodgers blew a ton of opportunities with runners in scoring position in those first 2 and 3 games. And I think that really was the difference for the whole series.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of think one problem that they had was maybe Mookie shouldn't have been batting leadoff because they weren't getting anybody to drive in those runs. I was waiting on Will Smith to go deep, waiting on Chris Taylor, waiting on Bellinger. Taylor, we're go ahead and show them. Taylor went off during Game 5, had himself a 3-homer game. We'll show them that clip real quick.
Contract year. We're going to get that money.
2-2. That's deep left center. Chris Taylor. Not one.
Somebody's going to play him.
2 but 3.
His third homer of the game. Like you said, he's going into free agency. That might have been his last game with the Dodgers because, shoot, any team needs a guy like that. He can play all 7 positions that aren't catcher and pitcher, and I think they're going to miss out on him.
Yeah, I think he was definitely a key piece for Dave Roberts, especially in the National League when you have the ability to do double switches and things like that. So he was a good guy to have on that team. So it'll be interesting to see if they try to keep him, because one thing about the Dodgers, I know we really focused on the winners here, but they got a lot of decisions to make. It's 3 or 4 big names that are free agents on that team. So,
but do you think Dave Roberts, how iffy is it for him now? Because this is very similar to what the Yankees were going through.
Yeah.
And in that, the Dodgers expect to have 3 or 4 World Series championships. So in this last 5 years, and they got 1. Yeah. And they got it during COVID year. You know what I mean? So it just feels like there's a lot of pressure on Dave Roberts. And I think that that the Dodgers upper management is going to talk about that this offseason, because we've seen managers in this position before. Dusty Baker has had this happen to him. You know what I mean? Where you've taken teams as far as they've ever been, and then season's over and they get rid of you because they just don't feel you're going to go any further.
No, you're absolutely right. And the thing, like you mentioned, the COVID season, like going into the COVID year, it was really shaky for Dave Roberts. It was like, is this going to be it? We kept talking about how he was blowing it, the decisions he was making during the postseason, running out of pitchers during the World Series, like the mistakes he was making. So you're right. That's something that they'll definitely, I agree, they're going to have to take that into consideration, whether it's time to move on and get a different voice in that clubhouse. Because one thing we know, the money's going to be there. The Dodgers, like the Yankees, they have their own network. So it's not going to be an issue of who they want to pay. They can pay whoever they want to. It's a matter of who's going to lead that team. So I think that's definitely something they're going to have to look into going into next season.
I mean, at the same time, though, did Dave Roberts' horses just get tired? I mean, he pitched Urias multiple times, gave them multiple looks with him. The way he was using the bullpen, his starters weren't even able to make it out the 3rd, 4th inning most of the time. Was that all? Is it Dave? Because the way he was piecing it to me, by which it worked out for him a lot. He was playing it for 9 innings. It felt to me like if the game would have got into the 10th or the 11th, there was no way the Dodgers were going to win.
I mean, it's not his fault that his batters didn't adjust. It's not his fault that his pitchers got hurt. I mean, they didn't have the full staff that they thought they were going to have throughout the season. But at the same time, we know how baseball is. They just don't care. And it's LA, it's the Dodgers. And you talk about the Dodgers who have 1 championship since 1989. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that standard. Look, they drove Terry Francona out of Boston. He had 3 World Series.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and Dave Roberts, it's like he's not one of them. You know what I mean? Like, he's not a Dodgers lifer. He's not in the family, so it's not like they feel some passion to keep him. They pushed Don Mattingly out. You know what I mean? Like the Dodgers have done this before. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying it'd be right, but look, Ron Washington took Rangers 2 World Series. They fired him. It doesn't matter. It's sometimes just ownership just wants something different, and they can't get rid of all the players.
Yeah, especially with an aggressive ownership like the Dodgers. Like if it was one of these teams where they don't really care about winning, then yeah, he may be able to slide off the fact that went to multiple NFCSs, went to a World Series, won one. But the fact that this is the Dodgers and they're putting such a spending so much money to put a product on the field, then like they may say, "Hey, bro, we understand what you did, we appreciate it, but it's time for a new voice in here."
Man, I mean, I'm interested to see what they do this offseason, but we need to talk about somebody who is the reason why they got sent home. Got to give a special shout out. I started my baseball career doing independent baseball with a team called the Texas Airhawks in Grand Prairie, Texas. There's a brave Tyler Matzik, left-handed pitcher who he spent some time there, and that's where he bounced back. I've seen this man strike out 7 people in 2 innings. Sounds like a legendary story, but it's true. But he came up big for the Braves. So let's show some of his highlights.
Trying to score Bellinger, who runs well. Pollock very fast as well at second base. Here's a 1-2 and a swing and a miss. That was a big 1 out. 1 and 2. A cold strike 3.
Might get a little extra off the plate.
Here's an 0-2.
Right there. That city just elected, but I think that guy right there is going to be one of the biggest keys to the World Series. He's going to have to get out Altuve. He's going to have to get out Correa. I don't root for a lot of people, but I know him, so I hope he gets to make some plays in those big moments.
I mean, the story is crazy, bro. Being out of baseball for years, and finally getting his shot, then you get your shot one of the biggest moments, and you come up big for your team like that. So I agree, he will be important, especially with the Braves bullpen. We saw Luke Jackson struggle, and Luke had been one of their pretty much the most consistent guy in that pen all season. So we saw some struggles from him, and it also goes back to the manager. A lot of people in Atlanta really don't like him, because he makes some questionable decisions. So the way he uses Mastic and those guys will be key to this series, because like you said, one thing about the Astros, we know they can hit the baseball. That's not going to be an issue. They've had some inconsistencies, but they can hit the baseball. So that, like I said, bro, that story alone, like just being out of baseball for those of us who follow, we cover baseball, but for anybody who's been a fan of the sport, how difficult baseball is. So for him to go be out of it for years, come back and deliver like that on the biggest stage, bro, that was great to see.
Yeah, and he threw that exact same fire down there. I don't know how he was just floating around, former top pick, but like you said, the Astros can hit and the Braves can field. That Braves infield has been together for a long time. Freddy Freeman, Ozzie Albies, Dansby Swanson, Austin Riley, and Swanson made the last out of the World Series make it look too easy.
I think I was wondering and get y'all thoughts about this. This World Series reminds me a lot of the 2006 series between the Cardinals and the Tigers.
Okay.
And because the Cardinals came in, and look, remember, the Cardinals were not a good team that year. I think the Cardinals won something like 84 games, maybe it's either 84 or something like that. But just like barely got in the playoffs in a bad division. But they had the pitching, and they rode the pitching to pass everybody in the playoffs. And then when they got up against the Tigers, who had the offense, that's and a better pitching staff from top to bottom. The big names. That's when you had Verlander at the top of his game. Yeah. That's where you had that deep Tiger staff, and they get to and they had the more experienced manager in Jim Leland at the time. No, Russo was on the other side. So what am I thinking? I thought it was I was thinking for Matheny for a second, but it was but you had these very experienced managers, and it came down to the pitching being dominant. I think that Houston's hitting is probably more consistent than the Tigers were then. It's just a deeper lineup and a more powerful lineup. But I think it's very similar to that the Braves come in and they have to defend. They have to pitch really well like they did against the Dodgers. Offense is not going to be the thing that wins the Braves this series.
Yeah, exactly. And we have a clip. Let's show them the clip real quick of Dansby Swanson making the play. Yeah, we might not have that one ready right now. But Dave, you, my friend, every weekend allowed me on your show, 103.7 The Game, Crunch Time, MLB Mondays. You talk Houston Astros. So let's move on to their series against the Boston Red Sox. Yordan Alvarez, man, young kid, rookie of the year a few years ago. It's crazy to me. I feel like he's like 30. Looking up to him and Gurriel, you think they're the same age. Just talk about what you've seen from him this season.
Just the improvement, just like continued improvement as an all-around hitter. And just to watch what happened in that series, how slow the Astros started in that series and how they just got, at games 2 and games 3 of that series, you felt like, I didn't know if the Astros were going to be able to survive because the way that things were rolling in Boston, the emotion, I didn't know how they were going to survive. And it was those two guys, particularly Alvarez, who really just turned that whole thing around. Them and Brantley, because Brantley was getting on and they were driving them in. Because there were games that Correa didn't come through. There were games that, Bregman didn't come through. But those two guys, Gurriel and Yordan Alvarez, were just phenomenal in that series. I think the two of them combined, almost both of them batted 500 in the series almost.
Yeah.
So it was just crazy. But just, their ability to just battle, make strong contact with Alvarez. That's the crazy thing is like all of his contact, it sounds good.
Yeah.
And it's just so impressive.
And I got Alvarez exact 522, 1 home run, 6 RBI, 7 runs scored during the World Series or during the ALCS.
Yeah, 12 hits. Like that was dope.
Man, and one of his biggest came with the 6th inning triple in Game 6. We got that clip.
Hold up, I gotta grab something real quick. Let me grab this real quick.
Yeah, that set to queue up, but yeah, Yordan Alvarez, him and Michael Brantley really carried the Astros.
Yeah,
Michael Brantley truly carried the Astros throughout the whole series. To see him win World Series MVP was wild. Not only did he have that one, he had a few big hits in Game 6 to close the series out. I've seen him play in person a few times back a few years ago, and he's just the tower of power out there at the plate.
Yeah. And also, like you mentioned, Grub mentioned it earlier, Yuri, you know what I'm saying, the veteran, he hit 455 this series, had 10 hits and 22 at bats. But the Astros, that lineup, it just, I saw it as a White Sox fan. They come at you in so many ways and in so many different ways. And you had Altuve, he only hit 125 this series. His own base percentage was 214. So he wasn't doing anything, but they were still able to come back and battle back and beat Boston after you saw, Boston put on that offensive show they did in Boston. And that was fun to see. I'm not a big Boston guy. I won't sit here and act like I am, but the energy that you saw in Fenway, that was dope. But to see them battle back and come back and win this series, that you got to tip your cap to Dusty, especially because it looked like, that pitching staff was about to fall apart. And, he really held it together and made the right moves. And that's really what it comes down to. Like the same way we spoke about Dave Roberts. And, in this series, a lot of his moves not panning out. But with Dusty, it looked like, okay, here we go. Down 2-1. Your ace is hurt. Your number 2 guy, he's banged up too. And like Dusty said, though, he said, he had guys who wanted to take the ball. And then shout out to Zach Greinke, who's done it all at this point in his MLB career. Him coming in and stepping up big for the Astros, that was huge. And so it's going to be interesting to see. But
Kyle Tucker, man. Kyle Tucker just his growth over the whole season to be 24, to be in that spot, 4 home runs, 15 RBI in a postseason in 10 games, to be his age and to be doing that at the bottom half of that order, especially when they had games where the guys at the top, that first 5 were silent, and then Tucker's just was coming through over and over again for them. So, like, it's that flexibility, particularly for like Houston might have too many bats. And Malik and I were talking about this on the show today. Is like when they go to the National League Park and you got to go play the Braves there, you got to sit in one of these bats.
Yeah.
Or 2 of them. You know what I mean? So it's like you try to figure out too. This is where Dusty's going to have to figure out how he's going to platoon some of these guys within the game and get guys in at bat or 2 every night, because you just can't leave all these dudes sitting down. So situationally, I think the Astros, like Dusty's management of situations, is going to be so important.
Yeah. I was going to say real quick, I do think that's where his experience will come in handy, you know, being the only manager to win a pennant in the American League and the National League. So it's something Dusty's done before, something he's had to do. So I agree.
He's the only brother to do it.
Remember? Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, my bad. Only brother. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does it, but we know Dusty can't do it. So that's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he uses, like Dave talked about, uses those guys in the outfield. We do have that video ready of Alvarez hitting his big triple, but they're going into an NL ballpark, so he's going to have to play some right field. He's been one of him or Brantley has been in the DH position.
That's down the right field.
I mean, you listen to that contact.
Into the corner.
He really barrels the ball up. You know, it's a stat for that now. I'm sure we can pull it up, but like you said, it's sound contact when he makes contact with the ball.
Hard hit.
It's never cheap. It's never cheap.
That's down the right field. Another hit into the corner. Alvarez digs for 2. He's thinking. He's going.
You have to have that guy in the window. You have to have Michael. So it's gonna be interesting to see does Dusty call in the pinch runner, get him out early. It's a lot can happen. That's one of the things that without the universal DH, which like you, Dave, that completely crossed my mind earlier today, is there's no universal DH until next season, maybe if they can get that in the CBA, but that's going to be one advantage that the Braves hold.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it certainly impacts how Dusty uses his rotation too, because Houston's bullpen has been so good, but you don't want to get in these situations when you get into those, when they go to the National League ball, go play in Atlanta, where you're having to really pull your starters too early. And that's the thing too, is his starters are going to have to give him good innings. They're going to have to give him 4 or 5 when they go to Atlanta. They can't be out of there in 2 1/3 like they did some of the starts in this postseason already.
Yeah, and I'm going to just name off just a few of these guys from the Astros bullpen. Javier, 7.2 innings, 3 hits, no earned, 13 Ks. Graveman come from Seattle, 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned, 4 walks, 6 Ks. Closer Presley, who he's one of the better ones in baseball, and it wasn't the case a few years ago before he even was their closer. 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned, 8 Ks. So these might be some of the most. I hate to disrespect and call guys no names, but these are some no-name pitchers getting it done in the Astros bullpen, and they're locking it down. We weren't expecting it. We were thinking that was going to be their Achilles heel.
And look at the Braves and how they hit, and compare that to what the Astros did in the postseason so far. Same amount of games. The Astros outscored the Braves by 27 runs. Astros got 14 more hits. Astros got more doubles. The only thing the Braves lead the Astros in is triples. And look, 65 RBI compared to 39. Yeah. The walks are about the same, but the Braves are striking out more. So those are all things that you look at if you're Houston and you're saying, our pitchers have to stay on top of that lineup because they're not going to get a whole bunch of runs. The games that they lost to the Dodgers were when the Dodgers exploded for 8, 9, big games.
Yeah.
So, but they won all the close ones. They won all the 4-2s and 6-4s. That's where the Braves want to live. So I mean, if you're the Astros, it's like jump on these dudes real early. We have to put up runs in the first 3 innings to start chasing people because they're not going to score.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You're absolutely right. And now we want to bring in MLB's Bros own, the founder, the man, Rob Parker joining us. Man, Rob, what's up?
Yo, what up, guys? Man, look at this. I love it. What's going on tonight?
Nothing much, man. Just talking a little baseball out here. We were just talking about the Dodgers-Braves series. What you think of the Braves this year?
I am impressed by the Atlanta Braves. I got to admit, everybody loves Dusty Baker. I'm not going to be mad if the Astros win, because Dusty Baker will finally get his first World Series championship. He went to the World Series in 2002. I covered that World Series. Barry Bonds hit 500. I thought they were going to win that World Series. And that's how baseball is. That was a long time ago. And Dusty's one of the oldest managers, so might be his last real opportunity. But there's something about the Atlanta Braves that I'm going to pick the Atlanta Braves to win. They weren't supposed to beat the Dodgers. They're playing without some of their best players, including their best player, Ronald Acuna Jr. So I'm impressed. When they choked down Game 3 against the Dodgers, right? Meltdown. The old Atlanta Braves probably wouldn't have won another game. And instead they came out in Game 4 and won. And don't forget, in Game 6, the Dodgers had second and third, nobody out. The game was there for the taking, down 4-2. There easily could have been a meltdown. And the Braves did not melt down. They held on and won and beat a far superior team, at least on paper. Astros are a great team. I just think the Braves have something going, and I'm going with my gut, not with my head. My head tells me the Astros. My gut tells me the Atlanta Braves.
Rob, I wanted to ask you this because the Young Bucks don't know about that series, but I said this is a lot of similarity to the 2006 series between the Cards and the Tigers, where the Cards, had the pitching. They had a lineup that was good but not great, and they were going up against that loaded Tigers team with the great pitching staff, and they beat the Tigers. They beat the brakes off the Tigers with 5 games. They weren't supposed to be there. There was no reason the Cardinals were supposed. They weren't I think they're the second worst team all time to win a World Series.
Yeah, their win total, and I covered that World Series, of course, being in Detroit. And I remember Albert Pujols, Jim Leland was the Tigers manager, and he said that he wasn't going to let Pujols beat him. And I remember this because first base was open, a man on second, 2 outs. We could go back and look it up. I think in the first inning, and Albert Pujols hit a 2-run home run, which changed the whole course of the World Series in the first inning, gave them an early lead, and they never looked back. It was amazing. And you're so right. In that World Series, I want you to know I was a columnist for the Detroit News, and in the paper, I picked the Cardinals to win. Everybody in Detroit hated me, but guess who was right?
Yes, sir. So I just want to ask you guys, before we get everybody's predictions, tell me a player that you think is going to step up big in the World Series.
Go ahead. Who wants to go first? Go ahead.
Step up bigger than normal for the Astros. It's going to have to be a starter like a Luis Garcia. It's for somebody to be somebody that does something extraordinary, because you expect all the hitters to perform. So it would have to be somebody on that starting staff that steps up in a place of McCullers, that fills it in. And I don't think that'll be Greinke. I think Greinke can be solid, but somebody has to be spectacular one night on the mound for the Astros, and I'll say Garcia.
Okay, I'm gonna go because the Braves are my pick. I think Freddy Freeman. I know he's been up and down this playoffs, but I think finally in this moment, is being a contract year. It's a guy, he's been the face of the franchise since Chipper left. I think you're really gonna see Freddie do something really big in the World Series.
A guy that I have the Astros winning, but I think a guy that can step up big and that's going to have his name on the World Series is young Jock with the Pearls, Jock Peterson. It's a lot of righties in the Astros bullpen. He might not get his starts, but he'll get some type of opportunity. He's game. He's been game in the World Series. He's been game in the playoffs. I know. I think he might have I believe he has like a 3-homer game with the Dodgers at one point, if I remember. But he's going to hit a big homer off somebody at some point.
All right, I'm copping out because I'm going to pick the Braves bullpen with those three lefties that throw cheese and gas. You saw what they did to Albert Pujols. You saw what they did to Mookie Betts when they threw three fastballs by him in a clutch moment. I'm telling you, the bullpen will be the difference. If it gets to the bullpen and Atlanta has a lead and they bring those guys out, I'm going to take the pitching of the Braves bullpen over the hitting by the Houston Astros.
Trying to score Bellinger, who runs well. Pollock very fast as well at second base. Here's the 1-2. And a swing.
Look at that. Nasty.
1 and 2.
That location is just
another one. Now watch the way he throws the ball by Mookie. Unbelievable.
Here's the 0-2.
Dude, that's straight cheese. Mookie Betts had no shot at that.
Former Texas Air Hog, Rob. Whenever I first started baseball, I already told them earlier. Whenever I first started baseball, independent baseball with the Texas Air Hogs in Grand Prairie, Tyler Matzik, that guy, he was signed. He wasn't signed. He got signed off the street by Billy Martin Jr. Billy Martin, the Yankees, former Yankee manager.
Sure.
His son was the GM of the Air Hogs at the time. He signed Tyler Matzik. Matzik stayed with us for about maybe a month and a half, 2 months, and he was throwing that same type of cheese against guys who've never seen the bigs. So imagine that in the plate.
I can't imagine, because to make those guys look like that in that situation, especially, I mean, I know Pujols, it was something off speed or whatever, took something off of it, but the cheese he threw to Mookie, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I've never seen Mookie Betts overmatched. That was overmatched.
17 strikeouts and 10 in the third.
That's ridiculous.
Man. And he's got to go after, I was telling Dave earlier, he's got to go after a lot of Astros right-handed bats, Correa, Altuve. So he's not going to be like you said, Rob, he's going to throw out his lefties. It's no analytics, righty versus righty. He's going to go with his horses, Atlanta or Astros, Dusty. He's going to keep those guys in his world. But before we take off, Dave and Dante, I need y'all's official World Series picks.
All right, I got the Braves in 6. Freddie Freeman is my MVP pick.
I'm going with my heart, and I'm gonna say the Stros in 5. That they get the runs early, and that's the way they have to win, is to get the runs early in these games, chase the Braves. And I think that I hope it's Dusty's time. So I'm going with my heart, not my head.
No, I want Dusty to win. I mean, I really do, but I'm gonna go with the Braves in 6. Albies, the little man, he gets things started. Stealing bases, doing so many different things. I'm going to go with him as MVP, but ultimately, for them to win, it's going to be the bullpen. And I know you can't give the award to 3 guys out of the bullpen, but that bullpen is something. And we're hoping that MLB Bro will be on the scene, at least in Atlanta, for the World Series. And Dante Miles and myself will be there, bringing you coverage from the World Series. So, we're hoping that we'll be there, and we hope that you'll join us on MLBBro.com. Thanks for having me, guys, on the show. I appreciate it, too.
Oh, nah, man. Appreciate you for bringing us all together, Rob. Rob texted me earlier. It was a year ago. In a few days, it's a year ago when he told me about the idea of when he came out to Arlington, and he told me about the idea of MLBBro.com.
I remember that. We had lunch. We, of course, had wings. What was that name? With the Pluckers. Pluckers in Arlington. And, Malik and I are just sitting there and eating wings, and we're talking and about baseball. And I told him about the idea for MLB Bro and how I wanted him to be a part of it. And it's funny because all you guys were on the show. We all met, at different parts. Dante, I remember we were in Atlanta for the Super Bowl. Remember, we all went out. And
at the W.
Yep, at that point, and we talked about it and his love for the game of baseball. And, of course, Mr. Grubb, I came to New Orleans, and he met me down at my hotel. And who else? Would Norm stop by?
Norm Locke, yep. And Norm Locke, yeah.
And we all chatted, and I talked to you about it. Do you remember, Dave? About
as soon as you got out your mouth, I was like, "What can I do?"
Yeah,
like I was like, "What can I do? Can I do something, please?"
so when I look at where we are and what we're doing on MLBBro.com, and the people who are a part of this are all people who, through my journeys and treks around the country and meeting different people, everybody's from different places, different parts of my career, my life. I've met people along the way who I thought would be great for this project, and I couldn't be happier where we are and what we're doing. So if you haven't checked out MLBBro.com, give it a shot and give us a chance, man. We got some great brothers on here who love the game of baseball, know about the game of baseball, and we do it with a little different flavor, with a little hot sauce on it. So again, thanks so much, guys, for having me, and I appreciate it.
All right, man. Peace out, Rob. Thanks for joining us, and thank everybody else as well for joining us. Thank you, Dave, for coming on, holding it down. Thank you, Dante. We for sure got to link up together and watch one of these games live and do this here. Maybe give the fans a few updates, maybe a game or two in, maybe as they switch, because this was fun. We got to get it back.
Yeah, no, definitely, bro. I'm definitely with it.
Season's over in 2 weeks, but again, thank you guys for coming into the MLB Bro Show World Series preview. Game 1 is tomorrow, Tuesday. We get big game Charlie Morton on the mound versus the lefty Garcia. It's going to be some fireworks in two of the most lit cities, Magic City, Atlanta, and H-Town. H-Town.
It's a good thing James Harden ain't in Houston right now.
Oh, man.
It's a good thing James is in Brooklyn. Sure.
It's going to be a good time. Quavo's coming out there, though, so it'll be – they're wild out soon with the Migos. But thank you guys for joining us.
Yes, sir. Talk to you soon,
bro. Yes, sir.
MLBBro.com is covering black and brown players in the Fall Classic.